In progress.
Good evening. I would like to call to order the November 24th ACSD board meeting. The current time is 6:30. At this time, we do have a quorum of the board. We're expecting some others, but because it's a holiday week, we won't delay. We'll get started. So if we could go around with introductions, if we could start first with those online, that would be awesome.
Jason Chance. Jamie McCallum.
Yep, thank you. And Jason, there was a lot of interference there. So in the room, Mary Heather Noble,
Laura Ruffin,
Jess Venable Novak,
Wendy Baker,
Barb Wilson,
Suzanne Buck, Taryn Burns,
and then circling back to
Ron Rockwell.
Okay, thank you. As I said, people will be coming in. And administrators in the room, please.
Courtney Cron, Director of Teaching and Learning.
Bruce McIntyre, Director of Facilities.
Matt Correnti, Director of Finance and Operations.
Melissa Stein, Director of Communications and Media.
And our principals.
Jenny Urban, Bridport Principal.
Shama Marcel, Principal Sean.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, I would like a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll move to adopt the agenda as warned.
Second.
A second. Any discussion on the agenda?
Can I request that we move the bill's approval to the end of the meeting, please?
Okay.
Or Jason, I can read them.
Or Jason, would you like Suzanne to read them? So why don't, so we can talk about that? What do we want to do there? Do we want to move it to the end or have Suzanne read it? And maybe has something more.
Yeah, I think it's fine to move to the end.
Okay, so we'll move bills to the end. And folks, do not let me forget. Any other changes? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of approving the agenda as modified to approve the ACSD bills to the end, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We'll take that as an aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the agenda has been approved. First is our first public comment period. And what I'd like to do is just kind of read our public comment guidelines. And before I do that, I'm going to have Ellen introduce herself, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you, Ellen. Public comments are encouraged and welcome at each of our regular board meetings during the designated period for public comment. And we have two, one at the beginning and one at the end. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, and those wishing to make a public comment will be called upon by myself. What we will do is, since we have folks that are online as well as in the room, I tend to like to rotate between online and in the room, okay? And when making a public comment, we please request that you don't speak to personnel issues, specific student items or legal matters. It's really not a public forum. It's not a place for that. So with that said, Suzanne, would you do me a favor and be my timekeeper?
Sure.
Yeah, so we can give everyone an opportunity to speak. So I'm going to start with in the room. Anyone wishing to make a public comment, please raise your hand. Okay, and please state your name for the record and the town from which you're.
Katie Flagg, Shoreham.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Katie.
Barb, I didn't hear. How long would you like?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna try to consolidate a letter that I've also written for the board. I'm happy to pass it up. My name is Katie Flagg. I'm the parent of 3 children in Shoreham. A middle schooler who's now at Mums, who did his primary years at Shoreham, a 3rd grader in the building, and a preschooler who's at a program in Middlebury. I'm coming today to share my support for the proposed consolidation of the elementary school grades at the Bridport school. I want to be really clear that our family has really loved our time in the Shoreham building, and that this opinion is not in any way we feel so strongly that the staff and faculty have been really wonderful educators, and there's something really special happening in that building. That said, I am really excited about the potential of combining the 2 school communities, and as I've been thinking about this conversation, I've really been thinking about what we stand to gain rather than what we stand to lose. I'm especially excited about the possibility of adding really desperately needed preschool spots in our part of the county. We know that reaching kids in that birth to 5 range, and especially that 3 to 5 range, is really important for setting them up for success in school and beyond. And I think we owe it to some of those young kids in Shoreham and Bridport to get them access to high quality preschool. I also believe that this move could ultimately be a vote in support of our educators in the buildings. I know that combined grade models have worked. We're having a good experience this year. Weybridge is a testament to how this can work when teachers have a lot of time to adapt to that model and are choosing that kind of experience. But we also know that teachers in these buildings have asked for single grade level assignments, and I worry that after already experiencing a lot of turnover in the building, we stand to lose really seasoned educators because they don't have classroom assignments that they have chosen or feel meet their professional goals. Finally, I really do believe that this could pave the way for some really strong experiences for kids in both Shoreham and Bridport. Small schools are really magical places, but very small schools come with some trade-offs. It's less time with interventionists, less time with special educators and librarians in the building, fewer peers who are at your child's grade level or just a richer social experience. And I feel that in moving the grades together in Bridport, we actually stand to have the best of both worlds. It will still be a small school. I know that the educators and staff in that building will still be really invested in every child that is coming through their doors, and I think they'll have more opportunities. As the board considers this, I'd ask you to consider a few things that might make this move easier on the community should you move forward. I hope you'll be providing time, space, resources for the 2 communities to continue to come together and think about building a new learning community, not just one school absorbing the other. I hope you'll commit to enhanced academic support for Shoreham and Bridport students moving forward beyond just year 1. I'm glad that this conversation has focused on equity and performance, and I'm personally really worried about the performance. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can she finish her sentence?
Yes, she can finish her sentence.
I'll provide a copy of my letter to the board.
Okay, thank you. Online?
We have Linda January.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and.
Linda? You should be able to unmute yourself, Linda, and speak.
Should be able to speak now, Linda.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Linda January from Bridport. And this is the 3rd time the board has heard from me, so I hope to speak from a little different perspective, a little more personal perspective. So I'm not a lifelong Vermonter, so to some degree I can't relate to the deep connection to our small schools so many people have. I can, however, share my experience of attending a district the same size of Addison Central in rural Ohio, made of many small communities that came together to provide a higher equitable education for their children. The district that was made from 3 districts consisting of 11 one-room schoolhouses, and in the late 1950s came together to form one singular district in a singular building, K through 12. My experience of a combined school district is one of district pride, district community, as well as individual towns building community on their own through Friday night fish fries, Easter egg hunts, boat parades, tractor pulls, church festivals, and street fairs. Small communities that have been able to maintain their individual sense of being while being part of a school district that serves more than 10 towns. I know merged schools work because I lived it, and when it does, our children have more opportunities and better outcomes. Because of this experience and my belief in listening to teachers and test scores, I strongly encourage the board to uphold their mission to provide high quality, equitable, and varied learning environments that inspire a passion for learning and growth among our students by voting yes on the Bridport Shoreham grade configuration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, go ahead, Abby.
Abby Murphy, Shoreham resident, Shoreham parent. I also want to present, as we have as a community come together and put a petition together, and we are still collecting addresses and names of people who do not want to go for this. So I'll present that now.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me talk again. I hope that you all received my email and had a chance to look at it, read it. I'd also like to reiterate today that consolidation of Bridport, Shoreham Elementary School, grade age students, I hope you all, as a parent of 3 next school year, I am most concerned that my girls have continued and continuity in their schooling. Yearly rearrangements of school settings, staff, and classmates will disrupt their ability to learn. I do not think that this is true only for my children. Shoreham Elementary has only had blended classrooms for this school year. This was certainly a challenge, but in the short term, teachers can take pride that their students have begun to close the educational gap we have all been so concerned about. Act 73 appears to have been a flop, and it is not clear what and when the state of Vermont will place mandates on the supervisory union. There is expenses related to the consolidation of Bridport and Shoreham students. These expenses are not being forced by the state. Consolidation is a voluntary choice at this time. One of the more significant reasons offered for consolidating and returning to a single grade classroom is the retention of teachers and being able to attract new hires. As Weybridge has had blended classrooms for many years, I find this argument very weak. I ask the board to respect the wishes of Shoreham residents and look at the survey, and the majority of which preferred that the students of Shoreham stay in Shoreham. There is no reason for this consolidation.
I'm sorry, Abby, it's 3 minutes. You can finish your thought, though, your sentence.
This consolidation at this time is not term for students' progress, nor term for financial benefit.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Okay, online.
We have Molly Kerr.
Okay, Molly, we're going to bring you over.
Okay, Molly, you should be able to speak.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. I just had a baby a week ago, otherwise I totally would have been there in person tonight. I talked last week, or last time we had the meeting, that I am against the merger with Bridport, and I really think from our meeting last time, hearing a couple of the board members questioning why we were looking to do this, I really hope that we can continue the combined grade classes and give these amazing teachers the support that they need to continue on. After speaking with them, they feel that they can do these classes, and I know the kindergarten teacher was awesome in speaking that she is totally fine to do the K1 class, and the same thing with the other two teachers. So I just really want to try to provide the support that they need. We've only been doing this full school combined classes for the last couple of months, and I know we've had some great successes, so if we could just try to give this a whole nother year. And I'm really impressed with Miss Sells, our principal. We've had her for the last 2 years, so if we can keep that consistency for our children, that will make a huge difference. So I appreciate you hearing me out, and I'm really hoping that we come to the correct decision. I believe that the budget that has been proposed for the merger does have some flaws and is not accurate, that there definitely will be some more increases that are not really counted for. So I really, really hope that we can keep our school with the combined classes, with the majority of the residents feeling this way. So that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
Any in the room? Yes.
Hi, my name is Megan Smits. I have lived in Shoreham my whole life, and I have a daughter in kindergarten, another daughter who will be entering kindergarten next year, and a son who in 5 years will also be, and hopefully at Shoreham. I'm not great at articulating my words, so I'm just going to read the email that I sent to you all. I'd like to respectfully urge you to keep Shoreham Elementary School open and serving the children and families of our community. As you weigh the future of this school, I ask that you consider the profound impact your decision will have on student stability, readiness to learn, and long-term academic success. Minimizing major transitions is essential for young learners. Shoreham Elementary provides students with consistency during the most formative years of their education. Asking children to transition to a new school environment, new building, new routines, new staff, would create unnecessary disruption at a time when stability is critical. In addition, Shoreham Elementary's location offers students the invaluable advantage of learning close to home. When children attend a neighborhood school, they feel safer, more grounded, and more connected to the community around them. Parents are also better able to participate in school activities, volunteer, and build relationships with staff. Shoreham Elementary is not only a school, it is a cornerstone of our community and a place where children feel known, supported, and understood. Closing it would come at a cost far greater than transportation or building expenses. It would compromise the stability and academic growth of the students we're all committed to serve. I think in the last 2 years, with the stability of staff, these students are making leaps and bounds in their learning and their development, and with the unknown of what's going to happen with the districts, I would really like to prevent another transition. So I respectfully ask the board to prioritize these considerations and keep Shoreham Elementary School open. Thank you for your dedication to our students and the families of our district.
Thank you so much. Would anyone online like to speak? Please raise your Zoom hand. Okay. Can you scroll it up to the top? Sorry. Just make sure. Okay, thank you. Okay. Anyone else in the room would care to make a public comment? Seeing none. Oh. You can speak during your student. Okay. Yeah, that's probably easier if that's okay. Yeah. Okay, great. And one more time, I'd like to offer public comment for anyone that's online. Okay. Well, thank everyone for coming out and participating, whether it's online or in the room, and thank you for your comments. They do matter. Yes?
On this before your end public comment?
Yes.
Okay. Because our select board is in session right now, and I didn't know if anybody on that board wanted to say anything. So.
Yeah. Okay, so next, we
Sorry,
have,
just want to just double check with technical stuff. It says, somebody says the sound is very low. Can you all hear us online? Can somebody, okay, thank you.
from Germany.
Okay, just want to make sure everything's extreme close up. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that, Barb.
So, before we end out public comments, we did receive the petition. So, how would we like to handle that? We could make copies, would that make sense?
We could, or we could just circulate it so that
Yeah,
we can
just
just
read it
pass
out
it around.
loud,
so we can see
Or read it out loud?
I can read it into the record, that way.
I think that would be great, thank you.
That makes sense. I don't know if there are other documents for public comment, but that's a typical practice. So this petition, it's the title is Save Shoreham Elementary School, Keep Our Small School Open and Thriving. To the board, we, the undersigned, are calling on the ACSD school board to preserve and protect our beloved local school, Shoreham Elementary School. For generations, Shoreham Elementary School has been more than a building. It's the heart of our community, where our children learn, grow, and form lifelong friendships, where parents, teachers, and neighbors come together to support one another. Now, with proposals to merge and drastically alter our school, we stand to lose not only an educational institution, but a vital part of our community identity. We believe that small schools matter. Students thrive in smaller, more personal learning environments. Community access is essential. Families deserve a neighborhood school within reach. Local heritage should be respected. Shoreham Elementary School has served its community for 68 years and remains an anchor for our town's future, and that there are better solutions. Before considering closure or consolidation, we ask that all other options, including funding reallocations, community partnerships, and enrollment initiatives, be explored. We, the undersigned, urge you to keep Shoreham Elementary School open and operating as it is, serving local children, families, and the broader community for generations to come. Let's stand together to save our school. Sign below to show your support. And then maybe I could just pass it so that you can see the different signatures in that case. We'll just start down on that end.
And I'll add, I had more, but I was not able to grab the last person's this afternoon.
Okay. Thank you. And so, while that's circulating, what I'd like to do is continue with the meeting by doing a recommendation to approve the minutes. We have several sets of minutes. So I do notice there's a typo, and that's my bad. It's November 10th. Those are the minutes that are in the meeting materials. And the public hearing was the 10th as well. We also have the November 13th and the November 17th board meeting and the November 19th public hearing. Do we want to have a motion together as one block, or do we want to take them individually? Okay, can I have a motion to do that?
I'll move to approve the minutes of November 11th, the public hearing of November 11th.
The 10th,
Sorry,
my bad.
10th, the public hearing of November 10th, the November 13th public hearing, the November 17th board meeting, and the November 19th public hearing as warned.
Point of order. Traditionally, people who have not been there have voted or have abstained from voting.
Yes.
And I know that the attendance at those meetings was different for each meeting. So, I understand we're trying to get through this as fast as possible, but.
So, what's folks' preference? Mary Heather.
I think it's just easier to do it all at once. The attendances are recorded in the minutes, so if there's any concern about that, it's part of the public record.
Right.
That sounds fine to me.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion on this matter?
I will just make a note. I noticed on the final, I think it was one of the public hearing ones, I had neglected to change it to public hearing number 3. So there's 2 number 1s in there. I've already made that change and I'll notify Darcy.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I didn't even notice that. Any other discussion regarding the minutes? Anyone online, is there any?
I'm not sure what Jamie's pinned.
Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of approving the minutes from November 10th board meeting, November 10th public meeting, November 13th public hearing, November 17th board meeting, and November 19th public hearing, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Jamie is abstaining. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, then next we're going to, we moved the ACSD bills to the end of the meeting. So next is report of our student rep. And so go ahead.
So we recently just did a visit with Salisbury and Ripton's elementary schools. And we just kind of asked them what works, what isn't really working, and some improvements they had. And some responses we got for what works is students really like extracurriculars, specifically art and PE, as it's something that they can self-express themselves and use creativity and get energy out. Another perspective they had was, I think there was a quote that they liked that they didn't have to have any smarts to do so and to actively participate in that. So, I don't know, I just thought that was, yeah. So, in more difficult classes, they also appreciate how their curriculum incorporates games and hands-on learning to engage themselves. And many said that they made new friends after the combination of Salisbury and Ripton. Some setbacks to that were the large class sizes made learning more difficult as it comes with more distractions, stress, and less one-on-one time with the teachers. Additionally, combined classrooms can mean that curriculum often does not match everyone's learning pace, which a lot of students expressed was very frustrating for them. And they had less time to talk with teachers and get help, specifically emotionally and regulatory help. Another comment was that the students from Ripton found it hard to adjust to a new change, but they have made new friends out of it. And the improvements that they suggested were more emotional regulation opportunities in the classroom, as they often say they want more kindness, and currently peers can yell or be mean quite frequently in the classroom. Students would also appreciate more frequent extracurriculars like art, music, and PE, as they often get those once a week or sometimes every other week. They also feel that they would learn better if core classes like math were shorter and split by level to reduce size and address learning differences. And a really big one was to move for longer lunch periods, as their lunch line is currently around 10 to 15 minutes long, and for some grades it takes them 5 to 7 minutes to walk back to class due to how the school is set up. So that leaves them with very little time to actually eat and interact with their peers. Okay.
Thank you.
And then one last comment I just had on the Shoreham and Bridport combination. As someone who has gone to Shoreham, I went through the whole Shoreham program, and I've had 2 brothers who also did that. I feel as though that it's a really great sense of community there, and there's a lot of benefits to it, as like someone mentioned, it being so close for my family. My family was actually able to do the events like the Thanksgiving dinner or lunch and the Father's Day events, which they couldn't have time to do when I was in middle school and high school. So I just felt that it was a very welcoming and strong community.
Thank you so much. Any questions? that anyone would like to ask on her report on like the Salisbury School or anything she's... Mary Heather and then Ron.
I'm just curious what age groups you talk to and like how many kids?
Yes, so I think it was 3rd through 5th, and there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There was around 10 kids.
Ron?
Taryn, did you when you were talking to students, were you kind of approaching students who had moved over from Ripton, or were you kind of approaching anybody who you met and seemed eager to talk?
Kind of everyone. It was a pretty evenly split group from the ones that were in Salisbury originally, and then the people that moved from Ripton.
And did there seem like there was a difference in the answers you got from those two groups?
Not a big one. I think that for both groups, it was a very hard transition for them. And that was kind of equally expressed, but more so by the Ripton students.
Thanks, Mary.
Ellen?
Did you think it was just scratching my head?
Oh, I'm sorry. I saw some motion. Anyone else? Thank you so much. Next up is report of the superintendent, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Baker.
Yep, just a short report on personnel appointments and resignations. We've been able to queue up Emily Hook to replace Sarah Stone as a behavior consultant at Mary Hogan. And also Gina Fucci is planning to retire at the end of the year from education. She, you might remember, was an administrator with the ACP programs and is serving as an administrator on assignment as we transition those programs in-house. So that is just a notification of her pending retirement at the end of the year.
Can I have a motion?
Laura, did you want to say something?
I just want to note that the date in the agenda says 6/30/25.
Should be 26.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Can I have a motion?
I'll move to accept the appointments of Emily Cook, behavior consultant, effective 12/15/25, and accept the resignation / retirement of Gina Fucci on June 30th, 2026.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Jess.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the appointment and resignation as entered on the agenda, as appears on the agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Thank you. And Jason, did you?
That was Jason's voice.
Okay, great. Then any noes, nays? Any abstentions? Thank you, Laura. Okay, they have been approved.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Nothing further.
Okay. Next on the agenda is a possible decision on the Ripton 2026-27 operation. And, included in your board materials is a copy of the Q&As that we had received during our public hearing, the questions and the answers. So those are part of the public record and, were available for the board and anyone that looked at the materials. But before I entertain a motion, I would just like to summarize the journey that we've been on over the past year and a half, just to have it clear in our minds. In June of 2024, the board was alerted by administration that instructional gaps can and have occurred with inconsistent multi-age classrooms in some of our small schools, particularly those with persistent declining populations and unpredictable enrollment across grade levels. At a retreat in November, the board reviewed student outcome data by school. On March 31st, 2025, the board made the difficult decision to place the Ripton students in the Salisbury Community School for the 2025-26 academic year. This was after learning that school-wide enrollment at Ripton Elementary School was 25 students, and despite efforts to open kindergarten and first grade spots to students from other ACSD towns. Starting in the summer, our consultant, David and I can't say Hohenshaw with Community Workshop LLC was hired to engage with the Ripton community in a study and survey of options for the future of the Ripton Elementary School. At the beginning of this school year, the Ripton Elementary students began attending Salisbury Community School. Several changes were made to help the students with this transition, such as an after-school program, a late bus, and additional staffing at Salisbury. In conjunction with our 27th board meeting, the board received David's report and received a presentation on the results. At that same meeting, the board decided to move forward to initiate the process of considering closure of Ripton Elementary School as outlined in Article 14 of the ACSD Articles of Agreement. And tonight we have before us a potential action to decide on Ripton 2026-2027 operation. So if in fact, and I also want to let folks know that since the charter calls for including the requirement of 10 of 13 board members to take action to close a school, that I will also be participating in the roll call vote, and if we should have one. So at this time, is there anyone who would like to make a motion?
I move that we vote to close Ripton School for the 26-27 academic year, pending a vote by the community of ACSD at the March town meetings.
Okay. And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
May I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Steve, when you say March meetings, you mean it would be on the ballot for each town when they?
No, yeah, on the annual meeting.
That
March town meeting.
The March town meeting, so
Yeah.
on everyone's individual ballot, not?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I wanted to clarify.
Yes. Thank you. Ron?
Were we also going to include language about returning the school to the town of Ripton?
So if in fact the board decides to, vote on this and it passes, the next step would be doing a district-wide vote. But and if that approves, right, then the town is offered back. The school is offered back to the town. Shall be.
But I think what
there's no
Ron
option.
is asking is, when does the ballot language get decided?
Is that?
That's not what I was asking, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So did I answer your question?
I think you did, yeah.
Okay. So let me recap it. So basically, if in fact tonight the board, 10 members of the board decide to, say yes, then it will be placed on the ballot, the district-wide ACSD ballot. And if it passes there, then it will then be offered back to the town.
The charter leaves no other option. So
Yes.
you shall do that, so you don't need language.
They can choose to not accept it, right? In which case we would, sell it as an asset.
Which is also stipulated.
Yeah. Did
Yes,
I?
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ellen?
So Steve has moved that we vote to close the Ripton School for the school year of 26-27. But the ballot language and the district-wide vote would be about a permanent closure of the Ripton School, not just for next year. Is that right?
Did you mean beginning?
Yes,
26,
beginning
27
26-27.
Got it.
Not-
Okay.
not
That was my entire
26.
confusion. I was
Yeah.
wondering if we were taking a vote on just one school year or the permanent closure of the school.
That was not my intention.
Okay.
So
What was your intention?
Just to say that it was closed starting in the 26-27 school year.
Which would be July, basically.
Right.
So beginning in the calendar year, but not
Yeah.
for the
In
calendar year.
in the fiscal year. So it'd be
School year.
school year. Yeah,
School
so it'd be July.
Right, okay, that
okay.
was my confusion.
Okay, other discussion. Yes, Ron?
Since we're talking about the Ripton School, I wanted to say a couple of things, especially things that I took in at the public hearings that I was able to attend. One of them was about the name and kind of how we define the community that is these kind of new schools that are created by these, in the case of Ripton, the Salisbury School. And that was something that came up when we spoke to, when residents in Ripton spoke to us. And I was really grateful to hear from Taryn about their visit to Salisbury School and how they, the kind of feedback they got from both Salisbury and Ripton students. I think for me, thinking about, and I don't want to be mixing our conversations here, but thinking about the Bridport Shoreham decision that we'll be making after this, it's really important to make sure that we're following up with students who are going through a transition like this. I'm just thinking as a parent about how I would feel if my son was to go through some kind of a change like that. And I would want to make sure that the people in charge were not kind of making a decision and then kind of dusting their hands and moving on. So I wanted to make sure that as a board and kind of in conversation with the district and district staff, that we really think hard about what we can do to help shape new communities in those schools, and not just kind of, and we heard that tonight as well, not just kind of phase in a group of students from another school into a new one.
Anyone else would like to have Ellen?
I think the other thing that occurs to me that came up when, particularly at the hearing in Ripton, and this is something that I think I have heard from and about Ripton, the Ripton community in relation to their school, is the incredible community investment in their students, and not the school as a building, but the school as a community itself, and the loss and the grief over not having their students educated in their town anymore. And so I think, to Ron's point about not just moving along after these very, very hard decisions are made, but also revisiting and re-engaging with how community is defined, and how that resource, which is a very important resource of community investment, is applied and maintained and grown, and so that we don't lose that Ripton investment in their students. And I don't put that on them, I put that on us, as far as how are we finding new ways to be in partnership with a town that loves its kids and has invested in those kids and in that building for many, many, many decades, and has fought very hard for that school. So that's something else that I think we should continue to engage with as a board. I think the not that we should be leading on that, but receiving that information and understanding what our role is in helping to promote that.
Okay. Anyone else?
Or Jamie? Do
Yeah.
either one of them have their hand
Yeah,
up?
I don't see their hands up. Jess.
I'll just share that the public hearing in Ripton, something that I really took with me that was said by a few folks was like their consensus as a town with what they're hoping we'll decide tonight was clear, at least from the people in that room, but that it was like a clarity that was hard pressed, right? It wasn't like the solution that they wanted to give, but it was like the best option that they felt like they had in front of them was to ask for their school building back. So I'm just like really, I'm bringing that into this decision personally, that it's not necessarily like the choice that I'm excited to make or anything I'm excited to vote on, but yeah, like message from those folks living in Ripton was heard loud and clear by me.
Thank you. Anyone else? Are we ready for the question? Yeah.
Initials.
Yeah, and so what we're going to do a little different. I'm going to have Mary Heather call. We're going to do a roll call vote, and I'm going to have Mary Heather just call on each individual, and then that way she can capture it as we go through. And basically, we have 10 board members, so we have the minimum that we need to, do this vote.
Has anyone else joined on that?
Just Jason and Jamie.
I think 10 total.
Just checking to make sure no
Right.
board members are hiding there.
Yeah. So Tricia or Ellie, I know Steve wasn't able, he's traveling.
Okay, well, I'm ready to
Okay.
call, so I'll start with Suzanne. That's okay?
Sure. Yes.
Aye. Is that
Yeah,
what
she
you
said yes.
Thank you. Bart,
Yes.
Steve,
Aye.
Jess,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Laura.
Yes.
I'm voting aye as well. Jason Chance
Yes.
and Jamie.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all. So that represented 10 votes, which is the minimum that we needed. So at this point, this will be placed on, we'll work on a warning and that you will all approve, right, when we're putting together the annual meeting and the ballot for the ACSD residents. Okay? Okay, next up on the agenda, and we'll, in this particular case, since it is not a school closure, it's a majority vote of the board, okay? And so we now have another possible decision to consider that relates to the Bridport Shoreham grade configuration. And once again, before I entertain a motion, I would like to summarize the journey that we've taken over the last 9 months or so. For the 2024-25 school year, multi-grade classrooms were configured in both Shoreham and Bridport. The decision was reflected in the budget that was passed last March. In the March-April timeframe, after receiving parent and community concerns about the multi-grade classroom configurations, administration held meetings with teachers, parents, and community to assess the data and discuss potential supports and to explore single-grade classroom designs across the two schools. At that time, both families and teachers voiced that a K-5 school configuration might be better, with teachers stating the single-grade structure was preferred at that time. In April, a decision was made to not make any changes for the 2025-26 school year based on feedback that had been received, and that a working group would be formed to explore K-5 single-grade configuration model to take place at one school. In the June through October timeframe, the working group met several times. Staff ideas were captured through a survey, and multiple K-5 staff meeting discussions took place. During this time, a design was developed based on a K-5 single-grade classroom, and Bridport was selected as the facility, using Shoreham facility for a potential pre-K, which could be potentially expanded. Community presentations were held in Bridport and Shoreham, and a district-wide survey was conducted. On October 10th, the board was presented and discussed the working group's recommendation and survey results. And tonight we are now have before us a potential action to decide on the Bridport Shoreham grade configuration. Okay, in this particular case, since it doesn't require a supermajority of the board, I will only be voting if in fact I need to break a tie. So it'll be business as usual, back to business as usual. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion to get us on this item? Mary Heather.
I will make a motion that the board authorize authorize the superintendent to how do I want to word this?
Go forward.
To follow the recommended grade configuration that was presented to the board that transfers K through 5 students from Shoreham to Bridport, so that there are, I mean, this is too long. Let me start that over.
You can start over.
I will make a motion for authorizing the superintendent to follow the grade configuration report recommendation that was presented to the board that creates single grade K through 5 classrooms at Bridport Elementary School and a pre-K program at Shoreham Elementary School for the 2026-27 school year.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a second?
And beyond.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Mary Heather, do you mean beginning 26-27 or only the 26-27 school year?
I believe beginning. Yeah.
Okay. And did I have a second?
I did.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Sorry. Yes, Ellen.
Wendy, I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit to the concerns that we've been hearing a lot about related to instability, and the instability that the Shoreham learning community has experienced in recent years, but not asking you to account for the past, including the past when you weren't superintendent, but sort of the role that instability might play in academic achievement. And I'm thinking about kind of leading to this point, but also looking forward. And just to say out loud, something that's weighing heavy on my mind is when sixth graders were merged into the middle school in the midst of a global pandemic, but arguably without a plan in place that ultimately served those students and the adults in that building to the best of anyone's experience. And so I just wonder if you could say more about kind of this issue of instability, both in how it may have been affecting some of what we're seeing at Shoreham, but also how we might account for that and mitigate some of the negative effects of instability if this consolidation were to occur.
I can try. If I don't address what's on your mind, feel free to redirect me in a way that is more effective. My understanding, about the concerns that have come up to this place and instability really relates to teacher turnover and principal turnover. Although I can't speak to the specifics as to how that occurred, at that time, I can say that certainly is a concern that's on my mind now, and is part of the administration's recommendation as to why a single grade operation in one school with both K-5 communities learning together is a prudent way forward. I think a key difference, maybe, again, I wasn't here when the sixth grade was moved, but I think a key difference here is that the teaching teams in Bridport and Shoreham had input into the staffing models that was proposed on November 10th, and also have discussed the importance of single grade classrooms as an effective way forward. So this is a change that is coming from the professional staff and they've had a role in designing in terms of how staff would be allocated and what additional staff would need to happen, which is different from our experience in Salisbury and Ripton, given the late time at which the board made that decision, which was March 31st, which was as attentively as you could have made it, but given the circumstances of that, that was very difficult for us to be able to move forward in because we'd already had a budget that was already passed, so we were working within the constraints of existing resources to do what we needed to do and involve them at that, at the last few months of the school year in that way. In this case, it's November. We've been discussing this now for quite some time, and the professional staff have had a great deal of input and thinking into what this looks like. Not only on the academic side, but also on the social emotional side. I think you heard from Amber Bragg, who is currently the guidance counselor in both schools. I think you heard from Danny Gerard, who provides nursing assistance in both schools. So I think that in and of itself lends itself to a greater level of stability because people have come together on the professional side to create a vision that they feel is going to be helpful and that they feel is in the best interest of the students and is in good shape to support. It's challenging to do a multi-grade assignment, and that is not an easy assignment to fill. If we have a vacancy in a multi-grade classroom, that takes a specific desire on the part of a professional educator to fill that assignment. Most teachers are trained, in single grade assignments and work in schools that have those single grade assignments, except those who wish to have others. The staff has expressed a desire to have single grade assignments, which to me, if they are able to work in those conditions, that lends itself to greater stability in that way. No, there are no guarantees for anything that we do, right? So people have personal circumstances that take them into new places and they have them do certain things, and I don't want to suggest otherwise. But I think that's a really important aspect of building a stable school. You have people who can be there on a regular basis, which are shared staff. They're working between schools right now, which is fine, and they're used to that, and that's part of what they do. In this model, the shared staff are in a single location, so that there is a full-time guidance counselor that's there. There are PE and music allocations that are more stable, in that 100 student school than across two or more of the smaller schools. So those assignments become more stable in that respect. A 100 student school, helps to retain our administrative staff differently, with the Act 73, although there are some pieces that, are a little bit more in flux after the redistricting committee's recommendation. Small by necessity versus small by choice is still a conversation that we expect to continue at the state board level. Administrators who are in schools that are 50 students each, right? That in and of itself may or may not feel like a stable assignment. Schools that are have a higher utilization rate relative to space, where in the district there really isn't a way to consolidate without incurring capital debt, are exempt from that requirement based on the language of Act 73. So that in and of itself could be an element of stability in a school that is a little bit larger. So I guess those are a few things that come to mind. I also think that there were a significant number of professional staff, as I understand it, who during the mom's transition, were not in favor of that transition for lots of reasons, and it resulted in a great deal of teacher turnover. That is different from my understanding of how our professional staff feel in this instance as a whole. And so there is not a concern about job loss in this transition, meaning that there's no sense that we will not have a place for everyone in this transition. There is, and Shoreham students, by every expectation, will be able to see the teachers that they know and love every day, just as they do now, as part of a sixth grade teaching team, single grade teaching team, although, right, they'll have some of the teachers who are in Bridport now, and some of them, depending on their grade, will have some of the teachers in Shoreham, but they'll all be part of a community. And a community of 100 students is, it's bigger, but Shoreham just maybe 5 years ago or so was about 100 students. So it's certainly not beyond the realm of what the students in either community had experienced, in the past. So I guess those are some initial thoughts. I hope that's helpful.
Jason has his hand up.
Jason?
Hope you guys can hear me. The internet is terrible here. But Dr. Whittaker, I was hoping you could speak to the timing of this decision and why we're making this decision at this point in the year and not waiting until further into the academic year and maybe seeing more test scores and seeing more academic results from the current grade configuration.
Yep. One of the things that we're able to speak openly about relative to student performance is our VTCAP scores, right? So those are released publicly, and we typically get those in the summer. So the next time we will, the students will take a state test will be in the spring of 2026, and we hope to get those, if there's no glitch anywhere in that system, somewhere toward the end of that summer or in the fall. As I mentioned earlier, making this kind of the decision in the spring of a year is very hard, and making that decision in the spring of a year for the next year, so that would be fall 27, 28, right? Means that if we are determining now that a more effective learning environment for students would be a single grade classroom, which speaks to ensuring that each student has access to the grade level curriculum that they need, and I think that is a foundation of students being able to do well. They have to have access to the curriculum that they need in order to be able to have the opportunity to do well. So if that is not something that we, in your wisdom, we take on right now for next year, we don't have the opportunity to take it up again until really 27, 28. And that, for students who, where these scores, show, an inequitable performance concern, it is a worry to me that we are not doing everything we can as soon as we can to be able to provide that opportunity. And it is a worry to me that means that the teachers are teaching in this configuration right now. They will also be teaching in that configuration next year, and pending, what I'm saying, your choice, like we're continuing down that road. That's a worry. I understand the desire to wait, but the nature of when the exams are given and when those results are given to us really significantly delays operations' ability to implement this kind of a change, you know, in a stable manner, you know, taking care of kids well in advance and properly budget for our, you know, interventions. I think one of the other things that is true of us right now is our voters have control of votes right now for this FY27 in terms of our budgets, and for FY28 according to Act 73 as it is written right now. We don't know beyond that what that looks like. So right now, what is within our control is a budget that puts, you know, carries all the instructional resources from both schools in service to those students, which may get at some of the things that Taryn is raising in terms of ensuring that students have access, you know, to enough adults to be able to help them, you know, sort through the needs that they have as they are working through different curricular pieces. So once we are getting into FY29, we don't have that guarantee at this point, you know, depending upon how Act 73 moves forward. So I guess those are the things, Jason, that come to mind right away.
Thank you.
Others? Anyone else? Suzanne?
You know, I've listened to all of the conversation, and as an educator, I've always not hung my hat on one assessment, because that's the worst thing you can do as an educator, is to say, here's one assessment, this is how my kids are doing, when that could have been a really bad day for the student or whatever. So that's really a major piece that I'm struggling with this decision. Another piece that I'm struggling with is, and I'm hoping that this is not something that could occur, but it is something that we left behind when we brought IB in, was that we had teachers that basically created silos. So like, if you're a second grade teacher, that's all you see yourself as, is I'm just a second grade teacher, and being able to understand what comes after you or what came before you, it was more than difficult sometimes to get people to cross over those borders and to understand that. So I would hate for us to end up creating the silos again. I think of what Christina Johnston said about Weybridge, and how all of those teachers, yes, they have been there for a while, but all those teachers know the curriculum K through 5, and their teaching assignments don't necessarily stay the same, and they can teach all the curriculum, but they meet the student where the student is, and then they move the student forward. As a special educator, my kids aren't, when I taught in high school, my kids weren't 9th grade or 10th grade. They might have been labeled as 9th through 12, but some of the kids that I had on my radar were reading at a 1st grade level, and they had to be brought up to speed. So that, you know, as a special educator, you aren't pigeonholed, nor are your students. You have to be able to know all the standards and reach students where they are. So that's what I'm worrying about. I just want to make sure that we're making the right move for the right reasons. And maybe not just because some have inferred that it might be an easier assignment, and I wouldn't want it because it's an easier assignment. I want it because it's what's best for the students, all the students. And I know that there's a lot of people on both sides of the fence, some that are very passionate for it, some that are very, very passionate against it. But my focus is what's best for the students, and what measures are we using to say that, you know, that they're moving forward or they aren't moving forward, because there are no guarantees that this may be the right move or not the right move.
I would agree that there are no guarantees, certainly. I would also say that the teachers in Weybridge have had consistent assignments. So if you're a K1, you've been K1 for some time, and a 2-3 and a 4-5. That is part of their assignment. In this case, one of the things I think that really caught my attention after the staff had input into what the programming would look like is the concept of team. And that's a concept that is used throughout the district very successfully. At Mary Hogan, it might be a third grade team, right? Or where there are more than that. In this case, there'd be a K1-2 team and a 3-4-5 team. That team works together with its own interventionist, a special educator, and a math specialist in together looking at data. So they actually are doing some of the things that Christina spoke about, relative to understanding how students are doing across the spectrum and what does that look like. And the expectation is always that you may or may not keep the same assignment, but hopefully if teachers are able to teach in adjacent grades, that helps maximize some of the training that they have. And I think that is absolutely part of the vision that was presented to me that I appreciated, in the model that I brought to you. So I just wanted to assure you that has been part of the discussion. And relative to the single assignment or single assessment, VTCAP data is the data that is public, and so that's the data that we can speak about most freely. One of the things I have asked, Courtney and her team, as well as, some of the classroom teachers regarding, other data. What else do we have? Do we have some other data that would suggest to us that actually the VTCAP is not giving us the right picture? It's not giving us an actionable picture. It's not sharing with us what we know. And I think taking a look at where we are over time, not just in VTCAP and SBAC, makes us ask that question. And we don't have evidence that tells us that kids are in a different place from the programming place that the VTCAP, draws our attention to. Right? So I don't have any evidence, and we've talked about that and looked for that. And I, however, believe that it is within our grasp. It is not an easy assignment, no matter whether you have a single grade or multi-grades. In this case, these teachers are like all of our teachers. They're working hard, in that sense. And so. I just want to reassure the board that the administration is not suggesting that this is something that we do based on a single assessment or even multiple years, right, of a single assessment. It's saying that the results of that single assessment are not results that our classroom information is refuting at this point. It feels like something that we really do need to attend to. So thanks for raising that.
It's just, fears that I hear and fears that I see.
Yep.
Helen. Winnie, I wonder if you can speak to some of the things that have been raised around some logistical considerations like transportation and the difference between options that exist now at Shoreham for transportation into Middlebury that maybe don't exist at Bridport, and how that might be considered. But also, I think, to a larger question of how to support families in general, but through a difficult transition, including after school and access to after school care and programming. Just kind of what is something that we can do if we move forward with this consolidation that offers more, even as it feels like less to many of the Shoreham families.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think there are a couple things that come to mind. One of them is that we've learned, and I think this is something that's happening more across the state, that when children are educated in a neighboring town, it's after school care becomes even more important. And we've certainly seen that, as Salisbury Community School has welcomed students from Ripton. And so building that in is important. And building also late bus transportation is important. So that way, if the childcare for students is not able to be accessed until 4 or 4:30, that the late bus timing lines up with that. So that way parents and families are supported to manage those logistics. That came up in the working group, and that is part of the plan that was presented to you on the 10th. The other thing that I think is important is, and all of the situations where learning communities may blend together are different. It's not one size fits all. In this case, we have very strong partners in Shoreham. Shoreham has a strong rec department, and they also have a very strong after-school provider. And it's important that as we're building those plans, that we are utilizing local resources to assist us in doing that to the degree that we can. Because those partnerships already exist. They already serve students from Bridport and Shoreham, as well as many of the other surrounding towns. And so the way we might do something in Salisbury could be quite different from the way that we are doing it in this case, based on the local partnerships and providers that are available. And so that's part of the thinking around that. We have established that there are no barriers to this plan in transportation or facilities or otherwise, but there are many people who would like to get to work finding more efficient ways to do things, and better ways that even can support families with ideas that were presented in the design group, but left for after the board makes a decision to do that, if that's your choice, so that operations doesn't get out ahead of you, in that respect. So I think there are lots of other ways left to be able to collaborate in support of families, with families, once the board has made a decision. Then, we will begin to get together to roll up our sleeves, to find those pathways of opportunity that people spoke about, such as combining Bridport and Shoreham bus routes, for example, so that way they're not only by town, to be able to find efficiencies that actually might work in interesting ways. So that's in addition to the extra supports that are there to help students access different levels of intervention, particularly than they can now, and so those are a couple things, that come to mind.
Thank you. Others? Jess?
Yeah, I have a few specific questions, but I just really appreciate everyone asking questions, because I have, everyone really grappled with this, especially since our presentation a few weeks ago, and have thought I was feeling one way or another, by the day, truly. So I appreciate the public's input as well in that regard. Yeah, I'm sure I'll speak again, so I'll just get to my specific questions. Looking at kind of numbers that would be as far as numbers of kids per grade in a classroom in the new configuration, and just comparing them with even just the current configuration with both schools having multi-grades. Some of the classes will be large, 20, I think, right, 20 kids in a class. Kindergarten will have 20 students, 4th grade is projected to have 20 students, which isn't totally out of the realm. I think right now Shoreham 4 and 5 has 21 students, but I'm just curious, knowing that we don't have a maximum in D6 for classrooms, but also space is a consideration. What, I guess that gives me anxiety. What if all of a sudden there's 5 more kindergartners in Bridport and Shoreham, and then you have 25 kindergartners you're trying to put in one classroom with no other space? So I know there hasn't been maybe operations hasn't totally gone down that road, but yeah, would you be able to speak to that at all, or just like where the operations head is at in that regard?
Yeah, we do the class sizes that are suggested in this blended, community are not larger than class sizes that are existing elsewhere. The point that you raised, which was part of the considerations I gave you on the 10th, is that if we are having those classrooms in a building that does not have an extra classroom to split, which would now be Salisbury, Cornwall, and Bridport, then what happens? And so my suggestion to the board would be making sure that we are providing instructions to the superintendent in D6 about what happens if the maximums that are in D6 are exceeded, which is a mirror to what you have if the minimums are exceeded. So making sure to be clear as to how you would want that handled. The other policy conversation that's going on is around C30. The policy committee, I think Jamie has reported out that the policy committee is in the midst of considering the feedback that came from the community survey relative to the ways in which C30, could be, that's our school attendance policy, could be revised to allow for a little bit more flexibility. It would be hard to know what the impact of that might be if the board were to make greater flexibility. For example, I had a parent who lives in Shoreham ask, okay, I live very close to the line, for another school. So if this change meant that, okay, now I'm 10 minutes farther away from my school, and would it be possible for me to go to the other school, with kids for that to work? I believe the policy committee is considering C30 recommendations that could solve some of those things, which, it is fine as long as the other school doesn't have a maximum issue either. You'd have to solve it, no matter what. But I think there are some moving parts around that will help to ensure smooth operations. It typically is a challenge when with the exception of Middlebury, when we are in kindergarten enrollment. And of course, there's generally a long run up to kindergarten enrollment so that we're able to get to know families and talk with families, relative to where they are. It's very rare that we would have, an influential number of students arrive in a certain grade, once we get beyond that point. Say like 5 third graders all come in, in the same year. That doesn't typically, isn't how we roll, with the exception of Middlebury, obviously, given its scale.
Cool, thank you.
Did you have any other questions, Jess?
No, I'm seeing that you already addressed it. Okay, other one.
Ron.
So if the board were to vote against the proposed change tonight, at this present point, what do you think the district would suggest to improve student outcomes at Bridport and Shoreham, in the light of that decision?
Yep. So we would essentially continue with the path that we're on right now, which is enabling teachers, the 3 teachers at each building who are currently teaching across 6 grades, to have access to a math specialist and literacy intervention assistants. The reason we don't have, just as a reminder, literacy specialists in that way is because those programs are already very well established. It's a matter of ensuring that we've got fidelity to those programs, and then intervention help that's coming underneath that. That's where we are. So we would essentially be continuing support to ensure that's going on in both of those 2 areas. We would continue to offer professional development during early release times, off-contract hours, including summer hours, to teachers in those 2 schools as well as others in those in areas of need. And we would continue a protocol of analyzing state, district, and classroom level data to see sort of where we are and what types of supports are needed and what we could provide. The challenge is that it is hard to put more adults into that configuration because a teacher has to be able to manage the classroom of kids, and sometimes when you get more adults in there, that becomes very choppy, and some of the things that Suzanne actually brought up start to come to life, where you've got people with different responsibilities, and then the whole child gets a bit lost, and so that's a very careful balance, and we talked about that as an option that used to be done many years ago that we don't recommend now. So putting more adults into this situation in either of the smaller schools as we continue with perhaps an exception here or there is not necessarily a strategy that that is recommended at this point. So we would be continuing it, and obviously looking for ways that new support needs come up.
Can I follow up? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to continue this hypothetical for just a moment. So if you were to face another kind of summer, just like the last one where you were kind of, a bit different than the last one because you were kind of implementing two-grade classroom system across those two schools for the first time. If you were to face another summer like that of kind of preparing teachers for that teaching situation, is there anything you would do differently in the upcoming summer to kind of better prepare the schools for that situation?
Well, this would be the second year of that program. So, I mean, Courtney and her team typically send out something, as we get to the spring around, what are the professional development options, that would be of interest. Here are some things that we can offer. What is it that you need? What would you what would help that engages folks in contracts relative to specific needs in the summer. I think one of the things that it's important for me to stress is that asking, we contract with teachers for 187 days. 175 of those are school days. We have 12 in-service days. Of those 12 in-service days, 3 of them are spoken for by contract, meaning they're not something that we can utilize for professional development, things of that nature. It's really important that we are honoring teachers' ability to manage their family responsibilities in those off-contract times, and perhaps other financial responsibilities that they may have during that time. And so we can offer to provide assistance, as needed, but we expecting that assistance will take place is not within our realm to do in terms of teachers being able to take advantage of something that's offered, in that sense. And if we are proceeding to say, okay, well, the expectations are, that you are teaching as though you've had the professional development, right, which is often how that works. That sometimes can create a situation of instability, right? Where you've asked people to make a big change, you've provided them an opportunity that they actually can't realistically take advantage of, and yet you're still wanting to see that change take place in terms of the proficiency levels to increase, and that can provide a really difficult scenario that I don't think anybody wants to be in. So accelerating the change to what goes on in the classroom really can only be done to a certain extent, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear about that.
Thank you.
Mary Heather.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to follow up on a couple of points. I mean, I think the expectation that our educators take time out of their own time off to invest in the professional development that would be required for them to meet this task. I think it's a reasonable offer, but I'm not sure it's a reasonable expectation, particularly for a second year after they've asked for what they've asked for. So I'm looking at it like you have educators who've said, okay, for us to be able to meet this, to rise to this occasion, this is what we need. And we say, well, no, we're gonna do it this way, but we'll offer some assistance. And then the second year, they've said the same thing. Okay, in order for us to rise to this occasion, this is what we need. And to say as a board, well, no, we're going to keep the same, but we'll offer you this that you need to take on your own time in summer or whatever, to prepare for this workload that we're expecting. I think for me, just from an outsider, if this were any other job with any other task, I think that's you're setting yourself up for potentially people leaving because they're not getting what they need without specifically taking on more of that responsibility on their own shoulders, which is something that teachers are asked to do every single day. And I'm sensitive to that. And that's something that's really nagging at me, I guess. And then the other thing that comes to mind right away is the data itself. And, there's a part of me that wonders, that the situation, the conundrum we find ourselves in, it's partially, I think due to obviously instability in a school. It's due to probably unpredictable enrollment and unpredictable configurations, and there's all kinds of opportunities for these curriculum gaps, which is why I think we're seeing the VT-CAP data we're seeing. Kids are not getting the curriculum that they need to succeed in those tests. And so I wonder sometimes if the reason this has persisted is because we haven't been able to look at data for a school because, the populations are too small. And we finally, look at some group data like, this whole school. But we can't really distinguish whether the kids from first to second are doing okay or, it's so difficult for us to really nail down what's going on in these tiny populations of students. And I think the degree to which we can help to establish a solid classroom, but also establish a solid way of getting data and interpreting data, I think helps us in the long run. And so I think that's a part of my thinking as well. I mean, ultimately, the school is kind of built on the building block of a classroom. And we've talked a lot this year and last about focusing on the classroom and trying to provide the best classroom learning environments for our kids so that they have equitable opportunities across the district. And I think that has really helped us to improve and hone our decision-making as a board. And for me, it's like if the classroom is not doing well, or the classroom is an unpredictable configuration of students of different age groups and different skills, that classroom and what's expected of that teacher who's leading that classroom is unstable. And I think the degree to which that we can focus on that and really preserve the classroom, that's our responsibility. And that's not to say I don't consider or think about the other implications, but as a foundation, like that's our mission. and really drifting from that to talk about the identity of a community. These are very important things, but our mission, our responsibility is grounded in the fundamental unit of a classroom. And I think that's what we need to focus on first and foremost.
It may be helpful for me to just remind the board because we have sort of Ripton and this conversation in the same evening, that that unlike the change for the students in Ripton who went to Salisbury, some of whom were in classes of 6, last year, all of the students across the district at this point are in classes that average 15 already. There's no palpable class size change in this blend, which was different from the Ripton to Salisbury change, and different from many of the smaller schools, right? In that way. So I just want to make sure that we're clear about that one, since we have them both appearing in the same evening.
Laura?
Couple thoughts. First one being, I just want to be clear that the D6 class size policy does have maximum class size limits on it. Second thought, our goal as a board is to look at the best possible student outcomes, right? And I keep coming back to, it's so important for us to trust our administrators, to trust our teachers, and to really listen to what they're saying to us. And I think at this point it's pretty overwhelming for me as a board member thinking about the possibility of moving forward with the reconfiguration at Shoreham and Bridport. What are the things that we could do to help smooth that transition into this coming year? Like, what could the community expect to see to help with the blending of those communities?
Is that a question?
That's a question.
Okay. Well, one of the things that came up most often in the design group was the importance of beginning to get students together, families together, staffs together, so that they're planning and they're able to begin to design experiences, which we were able to do a little bit of in Ripton and Salisbury, under Bjarke's leadership there, but here this is obviously much more protracted in a much different time, and I think it goes a ways toward beginning that new entity. What does that look like together in that way? I think also it's important that the staff is able to right away begin to work with our curriculum team to find the best way into the single grade curriculums for the next year, which, for some of these students, right, they're as they came through some instability, right? So it's really thinking about all that and planfully working from, say, January on to ensure that students are ready, perhaps with a specialty, especially designed, opportunity that leads them into that next single grade configuration where we assume they will stay for some time. And that would be work our team would be getting going and supporting particularly the 6 classroom teachers, right away. So that way that transition can begin right away. And so that's being done well. I think also, just finding ways for us to be able to go into the budgeting season knowing that this is what we're doing, and so that if there are additional resources that people have thought of since the design team has put forth the work, now that they know that this is something that needs to be done, that those can come to light, which may enable us to do some reconfiguration of things. For example, one of the conversations that came out of the survey that our team had was around our speech and language professionals and the fact that it's so difficult to find folks. And right now, both of those schools have virtual special education services. So is there a way with them being together that even though we can't find SLPs the way that we want to, we can actually reconfigure something so that those services can be delivered in person with a different type of staffing model? Those types of brainstorms and conversations can be unlocked if the board chooses to have us go in this direction, so that those transitional pieces can be thought of with the 9 months I think that we have, between now and then, all the way through. But there'll be a lot of community coming together, which, there has been in the process of looking at these outcomes and determining what to do. I think there are members from both towns, or families from both towns that were meeting together to think about these things, and I think these are two very strong communities, and so I think being able to get out of the way a little bit and say, hey, this is what we can do. How does this work with you and for you, and how can we respond to what you are asking for in this process? That will begin right away. Thank you.
I have two things. First is a question, Wendy. I know, and I've meant to ask this and just forgotten, but one position that exists in both schools, which is an administrator, a principal, would go from two of those positions to 1.5. Can you explain what would happen to the other 0.5 of that position?
The other 0.5 would serve as the director of the preschool programming.
Got it.
And there'll be a lot of work to do around that. Right now, those directorship responsibilities are held within our classroom teaching staff, and which I think they would just as soon not do, so that we can offer different levels of programming and deepening that. So there's also the possibility of not only expanding the preschool program, as I spoke to a little bit in our presentation, but partnering with childcare, and those partnerships to really think about Shoreham Elementary School as an early childhood hub. And maximizing that. There are grant funds to look for and secure. There are a lot of things that can happen if we are putting administrative efforts, in that area that I think would really serve youngest kids in the community well.
Thanks. The second thing I'll say is that I do agree with everyone on the board and to folks who've made public comments about our highest priority being to the success of our students, which is defined beyond simply academic testing, right? That success looks a lot of different things. I think it's to our detriment to ignore when families tell us how they feel about where their kids are educated. I think that's foolish, and I think it's condescending to treat that like it's not important in student success. And I take very seriously parents who've had their kids in rural schools, and I'm one of them. I think inevitably you end up wondering if you have any idea where your kid's going to go to school next year or in 5 years. And that's a tremendous amount of instability to weigh heavy on a parent at all times, let alone in turbulent times. So I appreciate that we're all coming to this decision with our own understanding of how to prioritize the information that we have, but I really caution us against disregarding crucial information that has come to us very directly and honestly about a number of people who would be directly impacted by this, who feel that it would be a negative move for their children. I take that really seriously. I don't know those kids. They know their kids. So I don't think we should dismiss that. And I do think that as a board, generally, we have a history of doing that. The other thing I'll say is, I sort of feel like it turns out we could have been looking at this data the way that we do now all along. And so for years, we've talked about and lamented not being able to look at the data. I don't think we should be looking or getting terribly involved at the classroom level. I worry that really leads to mission creep as a board, but I appreciate that there might be more data we could look at a more granular level, but for some limitations based on size. And also, we could have been looking at this data. And since we've been looking at it, we've been having really important, robust conversations about what that data tells us. And we've been doing a lot less hand-wringing about what data we can't look at. And so I just want to remind us as a board that we had the opportunity to have these conversations for years. We just didn't realize that we could because we kept focusing on the inability to look at certain data and not being able to pull back to consider that there was always information to be considered. We just didn't, we didn't ask for it.
Steve, you had your hand up?
Yes. So I have, since I know that during a motion, when a motion is on the table, you are only allowed 2 opportunities to speak, so I would like to use one of my opportunities now. These are questions that I have wondered about as they've come up in this conversation. The first is we're talking about consolidating to a 100-student school, and people are worried about having 2 schools, that's in the context of 2 schools that have 50 students in them. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, Ripton had 50 students in it, and the enrollment collapse there led to a problematic crisis that suddenly Ripton was very upset that we quickly closed the school on them. Are we setting ourselves up, if we do not do this, are we setting ourselves up to a Ripton-style collapse in enrollment that we have to react to rather than head off? I find it extremely problematic to compare Weybridge or any other school to any other school in the district because it does not take into account multiple factors. Each school should be considered on its own. If we want to look at Weybridge as a high-performing school that has multiple grade classrooms, then we have to also look at Cornwall, which has single grades, and Mary Hogan, which has single grades, which are also high-performing schools. So I'm very hesitant to say that, well, Weybridge has a model that works for us because we don't know that. We are comparing apples and oranges in that case. Both the administration and the teachers support this change. As a former educator, I listen to what the administrators and the teachers say. If they say it's good for students, I believe that it is good for students. And the other one that I wanted to address is people keep talking about instability in staffing. Instability in staffing is not something we can plan to avoid. Otherwise, we would have solved that problem a long time ago. People leave for various reasons. And I think to say that instability is something that we can stop by not doing this, I think is a fool's errand because instability is going to come when instability comes. We don't get to pick. The gaps we have already seen in combined grades in other schools that have tried this and curriculum coverage, we have seen gaps where students in combined grades, because the way they're cycling through, they miss an entire year of instruction because the way that we were doing K1 and now we're doing 1-2 in the next year, and when that kind of instability starts happening, when you have an instability in what kids are in what class, there are gaps in curriculum coverage, and that does have an effect later on. And having the economies of scale that you have in a single grade classroom avoids that. I would hope that a 10-minute drive between schools would not cause parents to no longer be involved in their school community, and that's all I'll say about that. Forcing teachers to use valuable professional development time focusing on multi-grade education is being used as an argument by some people who have argued that IB took away their professional development choice. So you are, again, taking away teachers' professional development choice by forcing them to do multi-grade classrooms when they say that they would rather do something else. So those are the points that I wanted to make.
Anyone else?
I would just mention, Steve, you talked about the decline, and Bridport, when we first moved into town, I think there was like 150 students in there. It was a K-8 building, then it became a pre-8, then 7th and 8th grade moved to the middle school, then the 6th grade moved out. And I think just a couple of years ago, the population was around 75, 80, somewhere in there, and it's continued to decline. It is hard to take two communities and put them together, but if it's, like I said earlier, if it's in the best interest of students and their achievement, then that's what we are supposed to be looking towards and for. We're supposed to be here for the students and making sure they get what they need. I know Shoreham and Bridport have done things together. They've done Girls on the Run for a couple of years together. They've done some other things together. I'll admit, my kids, when they started school, they went to the Shoreham preschool in the building that's no longer there because it burnt to the ground. And then they met up with those same friends when they went to the middle school, and they were like, hey, I know you. So what goes around kind of comes around. But it is a way of maintaining class sizes so that you have diversity within the classrooms and you can have great, rich conversations. I don't even know where Bridport's projections are for another 5 or 10 years down the road. Without something like this, it could be, Bridport did vote once voluntarily to say that they would close their school. I don't think they would really want to be in a position where they would have to say, because of low enrollment, that they are being forced to close it.
Anyone else? During the board meeting, it's not a time for public comment. Sorry. Right, Jess?
Yeah, I was just gonna, I appreciate everyone's comments, and just to kind of, I know that this conversation kind of sparked from data related to academic student outcomes, but was just looking at our vision of the ACSD board is for all students to reach their full learning potential, have a sense of belonging in our schools, and enrich our community and the communities where they live in the future. So our scope is much larger than a classroom or a one assessment or the outcomes of one test. So I just don't want to discount, in my mind as a parent, I've thought maybe a handful of times about my 12-year-old's test scores, and I think every single day if she feels like she belongs in her classroom, so I think they're just apples to oranges. And I think that, according to our website, it's our job to consider all of that. So I just don't want to tilt any scales. And I think, what has been really, all of this has been compelling for me, but I know for my own kids, their ability to feel safe and they belong in their classrooms and their communities is really about their interactions with the adults in their space. So the educator perspective is critically important to me personally, because I think it goes hand in hand with belonging. But just calling all that to the conversation.
At this point, I am thinking it's time to call the question. Mary Heather?
I just would want to check in and make sure that,
It looks like
I know Jason has already.
Jamie and Jason, it looks like they may have dropped.
Yeah, it looks like they may have.
I know they're,
Okay.
Jamie is in Germany, so he's 6 hours ahead, not 6 years. He's in a time machine.
Jeez.
And I know Jason was traveling as well, so it appears that they're not with us at this time. Is that true?
I'm still here.
Oh, excellent, thank you.
We're here.
Oh, you're both here. They just didn't want their,
Sleep when you die.
their face on. That's, thank
No,
you.
their cameras are, one camera's on.
That's okay.
I just want to make sure.
Did,
had enough
Jamie, Jason, before I call the question, did you have anything you wanted to add or ask?
I don't have anything to add, thank you.
I'll just add that I've been listening in the whole time. I really appreciate this conversation. I feel bad not being there actually, because for for a lot of reasons. It's really important. And I'm still, anyway, I just want to thank everyone for this conversation, and to all the people who spoke up in the beginning as well. Really appreciate it.
Okay. So, unless there's any objection, that someone needs to, speak again, I think it's time to call the question, and we're going to do it in a similar way. First, Mary Heather, could you read the motion? That's okay. She's taken a lot of notes.
Okay. Actually, I didn't capture it very well. I have very chicken scratch notes, hoping to just rely on the recording. But my recollection is, and maybe Steve, you can clarify, motion to direct the students. Sorry, I didn't, because I'm the one who made the motion, so I didn't write it down while I was making it.
Direct the administration to follow.
Yeah, I mean, my recollection, sorry, is to direct the administration to create a K-5 single grade classroom school at Bridport with Shoreham and Bridport elementary schools blended, and a pre-K school at Shoreham Elementary for the beginning the 2026-27 classroom. Sorry, my apologies.
No, that's what I heard before.
Yeah.
I think you did very well.
That's what I seconded.
Yeah, thank you. And so, Mary Heather, I'm going to have you do the roll call for us again. And in this particular case, again, I don't vote unless it's I need to break a tie.
Okay, so we'll start with Suzanne.
Oh, geez.
I'm going to say aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Jess.
Can you come back to me?
Sure. Ron.
Nay.
Ellen.
Aye.
Laura.
Aye.
I'm voting aye. Jason Chance.
I'm a yes.
Jamie.
I'll vote yes.
Jess.
Yes.
All right, Barb, you don't need to vote.
Okay.
8 ayes, 1 nay.
Could you repeat that again?
8 yeses, 1 no.
Okay, thank you. So the motion has passed. So going, forward, then it would be great. I'm thinking that we can direct you guys to start looking at what this could look like, and how we can best ease the transition, that kind of thing. I think that's what I heard as I was listening here. So that would be really important discussions, and how we can really help bring the communities together was another thing that I, heard articulated, as well as other things. So I think those are really important conversations and things that the board will want to hear going forward.
Yeah, I mean, this work will begin in earnest, and in ways that are inclusive of student needs as well as family needs and staff needs. And this is not easy, but we appreciate the board's guidance, and we'll be reporting on this on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I just want to thank the board for the excellent questions and thoughts that you voiced during the discussion period. And yes, I did let folks speak more, but I thought it was important, to really allow people to really voice and get the questions answered that they needed answered. So at this time, I'm going to move to the next agenda item, which is report of the chair. And the only thing that I need to bring up tonight is the fact that there's an ACSD member at large vacancy at the Hannaford Career Center. So basically, the way it works, we have two board members, Tricia and sorry. Oh, that was last year. Laura. Yes, I know. Laura and Steve that represent our, the board. Basically, they're our reps. But then there is a member at large that represents, that the ACSD identifies to go to the Hannaford Career Center as well. They're not a board member, and so that individual was voted in at the last board meeting or the annual meeting, and it was I know when Tim was here. I'm trying to remember the year.
Michael Giorgio.
Yeah, and so this individual did hand in their resignation to the Hannaford Career Center board. So what we need to do is fill this vacancy. And so the reason I bring it up here is more of a procedural question. Typically what happens is you would broadcast it so people know that the opening is available, so that we can then appoint someone. People could express interest. Steve, he also has identified someone as well that's very much interested. So at this point, what would the board like to do? I mean, obviously, if in fact we take on the recommendation of Steve and, appoint this individual, then it would be the fastest solution to get fill this vacancy on the board. But then there might be other community members that would like to also be, entertained as far as filling this position. So that could mean that we put an ad in the paper or something and announce to folks that there is this opening, which would take longer. And so I just opening it up to the board members to really direct us in the right way to fill this, and looking for your thoughts on this. Steve?
A couple of clarifications.
Yeah.
This appointment would only go until March.
Yes.
Until the next school meeting, the annual meeting.
Right.
At that point, we would follow the regular process. So this is a 4-month appointment.
Steve, how long is the actual appointment in March? Is it a 2-year appointment?
It's general. Well, it has varied, and it's supposed to be an annual appointment, but many people serve until they don't want to serve anymore. And I've only seen it on the agenda when there is a vacancy. I've seen people.
And we typically, ACSD, our at-large is normally 2 years, and then the person can, Nick Costin did it for 6 years, and after 6 years?
Yeah.
And after every 2 years, he would reapply to the board, and the board reappointed him because nobody else wanted to do it at our March meeting when we reorganize, and that's typically when we do the ACSD at-large person, is they apply and we do it during the reorg of our board.
And I don't think it's inappropriate to say that the person who has expressed interest is Vance Bishop. He said I could advance his name publicly. So if any of you know Vance, he would be a great candidate.
Yeah. Others, Jess?
I feel like because it's a short term, it's okay. I feel good about appointing someone, the person who's interested, knowing that there's going to be the normal process very soon.
Okay. Others?
Just as long as we're clear with the person so that they realize it's only
Absolutely.
till beginning of
had
March.
that conversation.
Yeah. And they would come and be on the agenda, and we as a board would then can ask questions. They can introduce themselves and explain why they want to do this, and then we would basically vote on it. And we can make it very clear during that process that this is really until the annual meeting. And that, and I do think in the future, it would be good for the annual meeting is to announce that there's a vacancy, because in many cases it doesn't get announced and people don't even know about the position. So I think we could do a better job at that, based on the past. Mary Heather.
So just to clarify, so the process would then be, let's say the board fills this vacancy for a 4-month period with Vance Bishop. And then at the annual meeting, we would notify that there is a vacancy.
Before the annual meeting.
Okay, and then, so I guess I'm confused between Suzanne's, what's normally done and what was done last time, right? Last time it was filled during the annual meeting, and in the past, like when Nick Costin did it, was done during the board reorganization after annual meeting, new board, then, so which do we want it to be?
Yeah.
Or is there a specified?
It's my understanding, Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, Suzanne's the real expert.
Yeah, but it's my understanding that it's not in our policy or anything in our charter, that it's actually written in the Hannaford Career Center. And
it's written in their policy, but their policy does not oversee any of the other boards.
Yeah, so I guess what we could do is, if the board so chooses, if it's the board's desire, we can fill the position temporarily, and then maybe what we do is spend some time at a board meeting defining the process that we should follow, and maybe we write it down so that it's done consistently, because I think it's really confusing. And that way people, and how we would even notify that there's a possible opening, so more people have opportunity if they want to participate.
Sounds like news. Perhaps a journalist could do something about that to announce that
Yes,
position.
definitely. So I'm getting, do we want to just do a motion, or do we want to be less formal?
I move that we appoint Vance Bishop for December, January, February as the PAHCC ACSD member at large.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, let me restate the question. All those in favor of appointing Vance Bishop to the open position at the Hannaford Career Center, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, it's he's been appointed. That was quick. Okay. Next is our board reports, starting with communications and engagement. Tricia is not here. Is there?
I could just, or if you want to.
Yeah.
We're still going with our town halls. So last week we were at Mary Hogan for our Middlebury Town Hall. We were a part of the Mesa's meeting. So that was great because there are a decent amount of people in the room. I don't have the list in front of me of what everything we spoke to, but the main topic of conversation was the work being done on C30, which was a topic that group of people who were attending were interested in discussing. So a lot of the discussion lied there. And our next towns, we changed the order a little bit, but I think they're Salisbury, Shoreham, Ripton for December, January, February. But those dates are TBD, but you can find them all over our website and external communications. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Mary Heather?
Do you mind sharing if what folks were asking or expressing about C30?
A lot of it was just kind of like what work are we doing with the policy, knowing that it's been on the policy committee's agenda for the past few meetings. There are some questions about like the policy as it's drafted, which I know we haven't seen yet because it's still in committee, but kind of what way is it leaning? I don't know, like is it going to kind of be like, if you live in ACSD, you can petition to send your kids anywhere, like a school choice model or something with a little bit more structure. So we were able to speak to that as much as possible. But it was also just good to hear like the questions that folks had around that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I will say, I think Tricia will be circulating a draft of our winter newsletter for the next meeting. So we're on track to get that out, I think by the end of the year.
Excellent. Thank you. Next is Finance Committee and followed by Facilities. So you have both of those, Jason, so.
Yep, I can go. The Finance Committee is going to meet next week on December 2nd to review the first pass at the budget, which we will present to the full board on December 8th. The Facilities Committee will also be meeting on December 2nd to review the Salisbury and Cornwall facility evaluations, which we will be presenting to the board also on December 8th.
Okay. Any questions? Next is our Policy Committee. Jamie?
Yep. We have on the agenda here is 823. I see that the action is for next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, for 12/8. So we had 10 days.
Oh, that's right. Would you like any I mean, there's been no updates to this document since we talked about it last time.
Yeah. Does anyone have any
questions? That's correct, right, Laura?
Yeah. Why? I guess I'm confused why this is the second read and we're not voting tonight. Why we wouldn't vote?
It hasn't been 10 days since the first read. Because the first read was the 17th, is that correct?
I believe I'd have to go back and look.
It was last Monday.
I think it's been longer.
It's
No,
been
I think it was earlier. It's been
longer than that. It's been longer than that.
It's been.
I think the reason, Laura, is that it was thought that there had been some corrections or some changes made to it.
You have to.
Therefore, it needs to be warned for a full 10 days in order to vote on it. So maybe it was misperceptions that there had been changes made to it, and that was our error.
And it was first read on October 27th.
Yes, yeah.
It has to be warned
As
that
an
a
action.
second read is coming 10 days ahead. And that 10-day ahead warning has not yet occurred. So now it's occurred.
Yes.
So 10 days from now,
It'll
you can
work.
vote on it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that was my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And then just the other update is that we're meeting tomorrow to discuss possible revisions to C30 as Jess was just talking about.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Next up is Negotiations Committee.
We met last Tuesday with the staff and exchanged ground rules, and we saw who was actually going to be negotiating on the other side of the board, which was good news because it's 3 experienced people who've done this before, so that's encouraging. There were encouraging discussions about the scope of what we were negotiating and the expressed wish that we would be able to conclude our negotiations quickly. So I'm feeling good about how we're starting off.
Okay.
But that's really all I can say to you.
Student Outcomes Committee, Ellen?
The Student Outcomes Committee is a bit of a victim of holiday scheduling. Our November meeting was scheduled for this Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. Our December meeting is scheduled for Christmas Eve. So we are like scheduling Hearst. So we're looking at dates to sort of consolidate in the middle of December, and I'm going to send out some options and see who can get together. But that's where we're at.
Thank you. The Hannaford Career Center?
You want to start?
We met last week, Thursday. A lot of talk about budget, as is typical for this time of year. We kind of advised our budgeting or finance committee to head down a direction, looking at I think less than 10%.
Under 10%.
Under 10% increase. So that's kind of the biggest news, I would say, coming out of Hannaford at this point.
Okay.
It includes, if everything goes well, the addition of electrical, like as a construction trade.
Okay.
Which is an extremely popular. North and south of us, they are oversubscribed.
Okay.
And it is one of the things that the building community is saying, if you want to add a program, add electrical.
Okay.
Electrical and plumbing, but we can only add one a year, so.
Got it. Good. Addison Central CPAC.
Sorry,
Yeah.
question about the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you remind me, I don't remember from the work plan, but when are we expecting a presentation from,
December
Is it
8th.
December?
December 8th.
Yeah, it's already on the
Oh,
schedule.
okay.
Yeah.
So
It's going to be a busy
same day
meeting.
as our first?
Yeah, for the road show.
We will be keeping the budget piece as simple as possible and without the tax detail. The thought is that the tax detail will come on the 22nd, so that we're trying to help manage your time and information so that it's all together and digestible.
Okay. Sorry about that. Addison Central CPAC?
Yes, the CPAC had a parent-only meeting on the 20th. And I just requested that either Mary or Jen give us a little summary so that we could share with the board, but I haven't gotten anything yet.
Okay.
So when we do get something, or when we meet again as a larger community, I'll get that information to share with the board. But basically, it was a good opportunity for parents to meet.
Okay. Did you want to add anything?
No, because that was the same thing. I reached out to them and asked the same thing. So,
Yeah.
and actually my motion was for Mary Heather to take it. So.
Excellent. VSBA.
So I sit on the VSBA Legislative Committee, and believe it or not, the Legislative Committee is going to be getting together on December 2nd. We have a criteria list of things to look for in proposals that are going to the legislative bodies, and the 2nd of December will be our first look at one that's going forward, and so we are already gearing up for a very busy legislative session. We'll see where things go.
Okay. Middlebury Community TV, we met the second Tuesday of the month, and mainly it's working on budget for next year, and then really focusing also on the fact that they get money from Comcast, but because Comcast subscribership is declining, then the amount of revenue coming in is declining, and how to really make ways to make up that shortfall. And so that was the primary, discussion that we had at the last board meeting. It's around budget and future as well. And next on our agenda is our.
Did we do the bills?
Oh, thank you. We need to do the bills. So we moved it to the end of the meeting, so let's move it and go to that now. Jason, approval of the ACSD bills.
Yeah, Suzanne and I read the bills today. We had several questions that were answered before the end of the day. There were two warrants. One was a general fund warrant dated November 2nd for $1,985,120.23. Payroll warrant dated November 13th for $1,154,118.84. The large general fund warrant was due to a couple of things. One included $1.1 million of Hannaford Career Center tuition, as well as disbursements to local pre-K programs that funnel through the district from the state. So that's why those were so high. I move that we approve the bills as written.
I'll second. Okay, any questions? All those in favor of approving the bills as reported by Jason, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposing? And any I can't say the word. Abstentions. Okay, the bills have been passed. Thank you. Next is our second public comment period. Again, it'll be a 3-minute time limit, and look forward to hearing from folks. Is there anyone online? So I know.
Barb, I just wanted to point out that there were a couple questions that were put into the Zoom Q&A during the Bridport discussion, but they were done by an anonymous attendee in the Zoom call. So maybe we could just see if that person in particular wants to make public comment at this point.
Sure. Yeah, so if there is someone that would like to make a public comment around those, I can't read them.
Are you asking us to comment?
Or no, I'm just wondering if the individual that put those in.
Oh, I see.
Is there
Why
and.
don't I do this? Why don't I read them aloud? It'll be captured in the transcript.
Okay, why don't we do that?
Transcript, and then it'll become part of the minutes.
Yep.
So the first one is, the first one was about the sound. Second one is, why not wait for test scores in the spring to see if we are making headway with scores with combined classrooms? Are you as a board, are you able to speak to teachers and administrators at the school to see what their wishes are in this combination of schools? Another school has combined grades with teacher stability. It is possible. Why not give these students a chance? What is the rush? Mary Hogan does not have great test scores. Are you worried about them as much as Shoreham Bridport? If the scores do not approve with the combination of Shoreham, I'm assuming that means improve, with the combination of Shoreham and Bridport, who takes responsibility? Superintendent, school board, administrators, parents. And finally, what happens if we do have an increase in class size? Where will kids go? There's no room for multi-classrooms at Bridport.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll capture that in the minutes.
Okay. And so is there folks, yes, there's folks still online.
There's still folks here.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is offer first to see if anyone who's online would like to make a public comment, and then we'll alternate back and forth as we did before. If you could raise your Zoom hand.
Mary Heather, is there anybody above Megan?
I don't see anybody, no. Nobody has their hand up.
Okay, is anyone in the room that would like to make a public comment? Oh, yes, I didn't see you over there, sorry. Yes.
I would just like to say that I feel very unheard, that the Shoreham town, the survey you put out clearly said, what? Keep Shoreham open until we have more understanding of what the scores look like. The surveys, the letters the board people have written, our petition, there has been many, many times that Shoreham residents have spoken, and now this makes us feel completely unheard. And second of all, I would like you to know that we do own our building, and you as ACSD have a lease agreement, which was put together with our old board when we were not combined and we had control of our school. So, being said, there probably should be another lease agreement put together, and the fact is We own our building. We own our play structures. The PTF has done all of that work, not the ACSD. It has not come from any money. It has been the school and staff and teachers and parents. So you're gonna have to put a new playground in, and it's gonna have to come out of the tax dollars. Because I don't think it's not gonna come out of PTF money. Because kindergartners need different equipment, or preschoolers need different equipment than what is there now. Second of all, if we do own our building, then I would like to have us own our building and ACSD out of it. And we can make a decision as a Shoreham community what we do with our building. Because using 2 rooms is absolutely ridiculous when there are other needs in our community.
Okay, going back to the Zoom, is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment? Coming back to the room, is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment? Okay, thank you. Next up is board reflections, and I open it up to board members if they have some reflections that you would like to share this evening. Ron.
I'm just going to be very brief. I continue to feel like while we are able to have good discussions as a board, I'm eager for more back and forth with the communities who come, take the time out of their busy weeks and come to speak with us and share their thoughts. I voted differently than the rest of the board, in part because from everything I've heard here, it sounds like 2 great classrooms are delicate and take time to build in a system, and I'm not sure that we've given Bridport and Shoreham a chance to do that. I appreciated the discussion that we had. I do feel that we made a somewhat rushed decision, and that it would have been okay. And I think it would have actually provided some more stability for students to be able to have another year in that system. But now that this decision has been made, I think it's upon us as a board to make sure that the implementation of this transition is done with the students front of mind, because it seems to me like this decision was made with the preferences or kind of considerations of educators front of mind, which is also very important, but I just want to make sure that we come back to students now.
Anyone else? Okay, with that, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.